Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be using Honeybee Stamps Lovely Layers Water Lily, their Spring Vine layering frames. For a sentiment, I have Be Still, the stamps and coordinating honeycut dies, and for pattern paper, using one of my favorite collections, Grain and Grunge. I selected one of the lovely wood grain pattern papers and cut it out using the largest die on the Spring Vine layering frame set. For the background of the card, I have a piece of brown pearlescent cardstock. I'll put ATG tape on the back and add that piece onto a card base. Then I'll set that aside and start working on the water lilies. In a previous video, I used the water lily set and made some lovely peach colored water lilies, but decided this time I needed some bright pink water lilies. I have two different shades of pink cardstock, and I'm adding a little extra color to the edge of the petals and also the inside area. I'm using Catherine Pooler's Sparkling Berry ink color. I recently re-inked the pad so it was super juicy. I first wiped off the ink on the mini stencil mat. I have just a few more pieces to add some color. Then I'll clean off my mat and add some green color to the leaves and also the lily pad. This is the spruce color from Catherine Pooler. On the lily pad, I'll add ink all along the outside edge. Then I'll add a little extra ink at the bottom, creating a shadow underneath the flower. Now it's time to assemble the water lilies. I'll start with the smaller bloom. There are 6 layers for the smaller bloom. I'll glue the first 2 together. Then I realized I'm missing layer number 3. I did cut it out. It had slipped off on the side of my desk. I'm using Barely Art Precision Tip Glue to adhere all of the die cut pieces together. The 4th layer looks a little different since it is the leaves, but the green portion at the top where the petals are will be covered up with the final pink petal piece. Other than the stem, the final layer for the small flower are 3 teeny tiny pieces that go on the bottom of each of the leaves, and I cut these out from a darker shade of green cardstock. I am using a pair of reverse tweezers to hold those small pieces, putting a small drop of glue on the back and adhering them in place. After attaching the stem, I'll start working on the large flower. There are 8 layers for the larger flower. The back 3 pieces I cut out of the darker pink cardstock. The next 3 layers I use a lighter pink cardstock. In the very center of the flower, I have 2 different shades of yellow cardstock. Instead of just using glue to adhere the flower together, between several of the layers, I'm adding some thin foam dimension. I'm using Honeybee Stamps Black Foam Strips. This is one of my favorite foam dimensions since it's nice and thin, and Honeybee Stamps has it in black and also white. I have just a few more pieces to adhere, 2 pieces for the very center, and the final piece of the flower I will pop up with some foam dimension. Now I'll put glue on the bottom of the flower and attach it to the lily pad, more on the left side. For a little extra detail on the flowers and also the wood grain background, I'll be adding a white ink splatter. I'm using Winsor & Newton ink. This is a drawing ink. I find it leaves a bolder white splatter versus white stamping ink. I have one paintbrush that I use with this ink, and I think I forgot to rinse it off last time, so the bristles were really stiff. It took me a moment to soften them before I could do the splatter. Once that's finished, I'll set all of those pieces aside to fully dry. Now I'll start working on the sentiment, and I've already stamped out Thinking of You. I'll be cutting it out using the coordinating honeycut die. I'm using Honeybee Stamps Bitty Buzz Cutter. I love this cute die cut machine, and it fits nicely on my craft desk. To hold the die in place, I'll use some tacky tape, and I'll run it through the die cut machine. It cut out perfectly, and that always makes me happy. I can't always trust my eyes when I'm lining up the die. Now I'll add the wood grain panel onto my card base. I'll put glue along the very outside edge and also some in between the intricate design in each of the corners. Then I'll adhere it in place. and you'll see that beautiful brown pearlescent cardstock peeking through. Now it's time to add the water lilies. We'll start with the smaller flower, and I will be popping it up using Honeybee Stamps black foam dots with the tab. This is the thinner version, the 1/16 inch. I'll put one on the back of the smaller flower and a couple on the back of the larger flower. Behind the lily pad, I'll add a black foam strip. I'll remove the release paper, put glue on the back of the stem of the smaller flower, and I'll adhere that in place first in the upper right-hand corner. And I'm holding the larger flower up to get the placement correct. Once that's adhered, I'll add the larger flower. I love how the pink flowers really pop against the wood grain background. Next, I'll add the sentiment, thinking of you. I cut down one of the white foam strips to put behind the word thinking. Behind of you, I'm using some thicker foam dimension. I'll remove the release paper and adhere it in the lower right-hand corner. The word thinking will be sitting on top of the lily pad. To finish off the card, I'll add some pearl stickers. This is from the Ocean Waves collection. I'm using the light tan color. I'll put 2 in the upper left-hand corner and 3 on the right side above the sentiment. They do have adhesive on the back, but I am adding just a small drop of glue to make sure they stay in place. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I love how this one turned out. The pink looks so nice on the brown wood grain. Honeybee Stamps lovely layer dies are some of my favorite to use. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links provided in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.